The boutique coffee shop's signature blend sat cooling in my hands as I rehearsed my surprise one more time. 3 years of dating Daniel Foster, 6 months engaged, and I'd never once dropped by his office unannounced. Today felt different, though. Special. The promotion he'd been chasing for 18 months had finally come through, and I wanted to see his face when I walked in with his favorite lunch from Giuseppe's. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Italian restaurant's bag swung from my wrist as I pushed through the revolving doors of Sterling Dynamics, the tech firm where Daniel had climbed from junior analyst to senior director of operations. The lobby stretched before me in polished marble and steel, all clean lines and expensive minimalism. Everything about this building screamed success, and my heart swelled with pride knowing Daniel had earned his place here. I'd dressed carefully for this moment. The navy wrap dress Daniel loved, the one he said made my eyes look impossibly blue. Hair swept up in that effortless style that actually took 45 minutes to perfect. Diamond earrings he'd given me last Christmas catching the afternoon light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I wanted to look like someone who belonged in his world, someone worthy of celebrating his success. The reception desk sat like a throne in the center of the lobby, and behind it perched a woman who looked like she'd been carved from ice. Platinum blonde hair pulled back so severely it could have given her a facelift, manicured nails clicking against her keyboard with mechanical precision. Her nameplate read, Victoria Hayes, Senior Receptionist, in elegant script. I approached with what I hoped was a confident smile, adjusting my grip on the coffee cups. Hi there, I'm here to see Daniel Foster. I know I don't have an appointment, but I'm his fiancé. It's a surprise. Victoria's fingers stopped mid-keystroke. Her eyes traveled from my face down to the ring on my left hand, then back up again. Something flickered across her features. Confusion, maybe? Or was it concern? The look vanished so quickly I almost thought I'd imagined it. I'm sorry, she said, her voice professional but strained. Did you say fiancé? Yes. I held up my left hand, letting the engagement ring catch the light. The princess-cut diamond Daniel had chosen sparkled between us. We got engaged 6 months ago. I wanted to surprise him with lunch to celebrate his promotion. Victoria's perfectly made-up face had gone pale beneath her foundation. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for her phone, then stopped. She looked at me again, really looked at me, and I saw something in her expression that made my stomach drop. Pity. Miss, she began, then cleared her throat. I think there's been some confusion. Mr. Foster is currently in a meeting with his wife. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. For a moment, I couldn't process them. They seemed to belong to someone else's conversation, some other reality where words still made sense. I'm sorry? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Did you say wife? Victoria nodded slowly, her professional mask cracking at the edges. Yes. Mrs. Foster arrived about 30 minutes ago. They're in his office now. The coffee cups in my hands suddenly felt impossibly heavy. The lobby around me seemed to tilt slightly, like I was standing on the deck of a ship in rough waters. There must be some mistake. I'm his fiancé. We've been together for 3 years. Victoria looked genuinely distressed now. She glanced around the lobby, perhaps checking if anyone else was witnessing this train wreck. I'm very sorry, but I've worked this desk for 4 years. I know Mrs. Foster. She and Mr. Foster have been married for 7 years. 7 years. The number ricocheted around my skull. 7 years. We'd only been together for 3. Which meant... That's impossible, I heard myself saying, even as puzzle pieces began clicking into place in the back of my mind. The business trips. So many business trips. The way he never wanted me to visit his office. how he'd been vague about introducing me to his colleagues. We live together. We're getting married in 4 months. Victoria's expression had moved from professional concern to genuine alarm. She stood up, came around her desk, and gently took the coffee cups from my shaking hands. "Why don't you sit down?" she suggested, guiding me toward one of the sleek leather chairs in the waiting area. "Can I get you some water?" I sank into the chair, my mind racing. Every memory, every moment from the past 3 years suddenly looked different, like I was seeing them through a funhouse mirror, the apartment Daniel and I shared. Except he'd always insisted we rent under my name because his credit was complicated, from a bad business investment. The way he was never available on weekends, always had some work emergency or family obligation. How he'd convinced me we should keep our relationship private on social media because he was old-fashioned and didn't believe in broadcasting personal life online. "This has to be a mistake," I whispered, but even to my own ears I sounded uncertain. "Maybe it's his sister? Or his mother? Maybe you're confused about the relationship?" Victoria returned with a bottle of water, her face etched with sympathy. She sat down in the chair next to mine, speaking quietly. "I wish I could tell you that was true, but I've seen them together countless times. Anniversary lunches, company events. They just celebrated their 7th anniversary last month. He bought her roses, had them delivered here to the office. Last month." I thought back to last month. Daniel had been distant, distracted, said he was stressed about the upcoming promotion decision. I'd given him space, been supportive and understanding, while apparently he'd been celebrating 7 years of marriage to someone else. The Giuseppe's bag sat at my feet, the smell of Italian food that had seemed so appealing 20 minutes ago now making my stomach turn. I'd spent an hour this morning planning the surprise, had called the restaurant to make sure they had his favorite dish, had imagined his face lighting up when I walked through his door. "How long have you known?" I asked Victoria, my voice hollow. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. She bit her lip. "About Mr. Foster being married? Since I started working here. Like I said, 4 years. 4 years. Daniel and I had been together for 3, which meant for our entire relationship everyone in this building had known he had a wife, had known and said nothing. Why didn't anyone tell me?" The question came out sharper than I intended. Victoria looked uncomfortable. Honestly, I didn't know about you until just now. Mr. Foster never mentioned a fiancé, never brought you to any company events. If anyone here knew, they kept it quiet." Of course they had. Daniel had built 2 completely separate lives, 2 complete realities, and managed to keep them from ever touching. The meticulous planning that must have taken. The constant lies, the careful scheduling, the exhausting mental gymnastics of remembering which story he'd told to whom. I stood abruptly, the leather chair creaking. "I need to see him." Victoria stood too, reaching out as if to stop me, then dropping her hand. "Are you sure that's a good idea? Maybe you should go home. Think about this. Talk to him when..." "When what?" "When he decides to come home to our apartment tonight and lie to my face again." I picked up the Giuseppe's bag, my hands steadier now. Anger was beginning to burn through the shock, hot and clarifying. "Which floor is his office on?" "12th floor, but you need a key card for the elevator." "Then give me a visitor's pass." Victoria hesitated, clearly torn between professional protocol and human decency. Finally, she nodded and returned to her desk. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, and moments later a laminated visitor's badge emerged from a small printer. She handed it to me along with a key card. "The elevators are to your left," she said quietly. "His office is 1247, but please, maybe wait until their meeting is over. Thank you for your help." I clipped the badge to my dress, feeling the weight of it against my chest like a scarlet letter in reverse. Evidence that I was the other woman in my own relationship. The elevator bay was empty, and I was grateful for that small mercy. I couldn't have faced making small talk with strangers right now, couldn't have maintained any pretense of normalcy. The doors slid open with a soft chime, and I stepped inside, pressing the button for the 12th floor. As the elevator climbed, I caught sight of my reflection in the polished steel doors, the carefully chosen dress, the perfect hair, the makeup applied with such hope and excitement just hours ago. I looked exactly like what I was. A fool. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from my best friend, Maya. "Did you surprise him yet? Send pics. I want to see his face." I couldn't answer that, couldn't put into words what was happening. Instead, I tucked my phone away and watched the floor numbers tick upward. 8, 9, 10. The elevator slowed, and for a moment I thought about pressing the button for the lobby. I could leave right now. Could walk out of this building and never look back. Could pack my things from our apartment and disappear before Daniel even knew I'd been here. But that would leave too many questions unanswered. And more than that, it would mean she didn't know. This wife, whoever she was, she deserved to know just as much as I did. The doors opened on the 12th floor. The hallway stretched before me, all industrial gray carpet and white walls decorated with abstract art. Offices lined both sides, most with closed doors. I could hear the muted sounds of people working, phones ringing, the hum of conversation from somewhere distant. Room 1247. I found it halfway down the corridor on the right side. The door was closed, but through the frosted glass panel I could see movement inside. Two silhouettes standing close together. My hand hovered over the door handle. This was it. The moment where everything would either be confirmed or somehow, miraculously, explained away. Though I already knew deep in my gut which it would be. I knocked. 3 sharp raps that sounded too loud in the quiet hallway. The movement inside the office stopped. Then footsteps. The door opened. Daniel stood before me, and for just a second, his face showed pure, unguarded happiness. "Jen, what are you—" Then his eyes widened as he registered what this meant. Where I was. Who might see? The happiness evaporated, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. "What are you doing here?" Behind him I could see her. A woman in her mid-30s, dark hair falling in waves past her shoulders, wearing an elegant black suit. She was beautiful in that effortless way that made my carefully constructed appearance seem suddenly cheap and desperate. She was looking between Daniel and me with growing confusion. "Surprise," I said flatly, holding up the Giuseppe's bag. "I brought lunch. To celebrate your promotion." Daniel's face had gone white. He stepped into the hallway, trying to pull the door closed behind him, but the woman was already moving forward. "Daniel?" Her voice was cultured, smooth. "Who's this?" I looked past Daniel directly at her and asked the question even though I already knew the answer. "Are you his wife?" Her confusion deepened. "Yes, I'm Olivia Foster. And you are?" The hallway seemed to telescope around me, everything feeling simultaneously too close and impossibly far away. I held up my left hand, the diamond engagement ring glinting under the fluorescent lights. "I'm Jennifer Torres," I said clearly, his fiancé. The color that had drained from Daniel's face now flooded back in a rush of red. Olivia took a step forward, her eyes locked on my ring, and I watched her face transform as understanding dawned. The confusion shifted to shock, the shock to something harder, colder. "Daniel?" She turned to him, and her voice had gone very quiet. The kind of quiet that precedes a storm. "What is she talking about?" Daniel held up his hands, the universal gesture of a man caught between two impossible situations. "Olivia, let's not do this here. This is my office. People are working. Let me explain everything, but not here. Not like this. 3 years. I cut in, my voice stronger now. The anger was fully present, burning away the last of my shock. We've been together for 3 years. We have an apartment together on Riverside Drive. We're supposed to get married in 4 months. The venue is booked. I have my dress. My parents have already sent out save the dates. Olivia's hand went to her mouth. When she dropped it, I could see tears gathering in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. We have a house in Maplewood. We've been married for 7 years. Our anniversary was last month. He took me to Chez Blanc. He told me he was in Boston for a conference, I said, the memory crystallizing with new, horrible clarity. Sent me pictures of the hotel room. Said he missed me. He was with me, Olivia said, the whole weekend. Daniel looked like a man watching his entire world collapse in real time. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. What could he possibly say? What explanation could cover 7 years of marriage and 3 years of engagement running simultaneously? How? Olivia asked, and now she was looking at me. Really looking at me, perhaps seeing me as a person for the first time rather than just an impossibility that had appeared in her husband's office. How did he manage this? The business trips, I said slowly, pieces still clicking into place. He traveled constantly for work, at least 2 weeks a month, sometimes more. He said the company had him managing accounts all over the Northeast. He's in operations, Olivia said flatly. He doesn't travel for work. Hasn't in 3 years, not since his promotion to director. The lie was so enormous, so fundamental, that it almost seemed like an achievement. Daniel had constructed an entire fictional job requirement to justify spending half his time away from me, which meant the question became, when was he lying? When he was with me, or when he was with her? Does he live with you? Olivia asked, her voice clinical now, like she was conducting an investigation. Perhaps she was. Part-time, I admitted. He said his job was demanding, that he needed to stay in the city during busy weeks. I work from home as a graphic designer, so I didn't mind. Thought I was being supportive. I work as a pediatric surgeon, Olivia said. Irregular hours, night shifts. He told me he'd taken on private consulting work that required him to stay in the city sometimes. Said he had a studio apartment near his office to make the commute easier. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I thought I was being understanding, giving him space. We both turned to Daniel, who looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him whole. People had started emerging from nearby offices, drawn by the raised voices. I could see faces peering around doorways, hear the whispers starting to spread down the hallway. Don't make a scene, Daniel hissed, finally finding his voice. Both of you. We can discuss this rationally, privately. Rationally. Olivia's carefully maintained composure cracked. You've been living a double life for 3 years and you want to discuss it rationally? At least 3 years, I corrected. Could be longer. How would we know? How would we ever know what's true? A man in an expensive suit appeared at the end of the hallway, his expression concerned. Daniel? Is everything all right? We have the board meeting in 20 minutes. Everything's fine, Richard, Daniel said through gritted teeth. Just a personal matter. I'll be there. This is Richard Pemberton, Olivia said, turning to the man. Managing director, right? I remember you from the holiday party, the one where you told me how lucky Daniel was to have such a devoted wife. Richard's confusion was almost comical. He looked between Olivia, me, and Daniel, clearly trying to solve an equation that didn't add up. I'm his wife, Olivia said, pointing to herself. Then she pointed to me. She's his fiancé. We both just found out about each other approximately 3 minutes ago. So please, tell Daniel that he's going to miss that board meeting. The color drained from Richard's face. He opened his mouth, closed it, then seemed to decide this was far above his pay grade. I'll tell them you'll be delayed. Tell them he's fired, Olivia said coldly. I'm assuming bigamy violates company policy? I'm not technically committing bigamy, Daniel interjected desperately. We're not married yet, Jen. It's not illegal. That's your defense? I stared at him, barely recognizing the man I'd thought I knew. That it's not technically illegal to propose to someone while already married? More people had gathered now. I could see smartphones being raised, though whether to call security or to record the drama, I wasn't sure. The audience didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered except the truth that kept unfolding like a poisonous flower. How many others? Olivia asked suddenly. Is it just the two of us, or are there more? Daniel's silence was damning. Oh God, I breathed. There are more. No. Daniel finally found his voice properly. No, I swear it's complicated. You don't understand the pressure I've been under, the expectations. Save it. Olivia cut him off. She turned to me, and I saw something fierce and determined in her eyes. Do you have somewhere you need to be right now? I shook my head. My entire day had been cleared for this surprise. The bitter irony wasn't lost on me. Good. Neither do I. I called out of surgery today to surprise my husband for his promotion. She smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut glass. Seems we both had the same idea. She strode past Daniel into his office, and I followed without being asked. Daniel tried to block the doorway, but Olivia simply looked at him with such cold fury that he stepped aside. The office was everything I'd imagined. Corner view, expensive furniture, wall of windows overlooking the city. On the credenza behind his desk sat a photo in a silver frame. Olivia and Daniel on their wedding day, both young and glowing with happiness. Next to it was another photo, more recent. The two of them on a beach somewhere, arms around each other, genuine smiles. There was no photo of me anywhere. He keeps pictures of me in his wallet, I said numbly, staring at the wedding photo. Told me he didn't like having personal items at work, that he wanted to keep his professional and private lives separate. He told me the same thing, Olivia said. But I insisted. 7-year anniversary gift. He couldn't refuse without causing suspicion. She picked up the wedding photo, studied it, then set it back down carefully. I thought we were happy. So did I. We turned simultaneously to look at Daniel, who stood in the doorway of his own office like a stranger. The audience in the hallway had grown. I could see at least a dozen people now, all pretending not to watch while hanging on every word. When were you planning to tell me? I asked him. After the wedding? Were you going to be a bigamist, or were you planning to divorce Olivia first? I was trying to figure things out, Daniel said, and he actually had the audacity to sound defensive. It got complicated. I never meant for any of this to happen. Complicated, Olivia repeated. That's one word for it. She moved to Daniel's desk, sat down in his chair with the authority of someone who belonged there. Let's uncomplicate it, shall we? Jennifer, do you know anything about his finances? I shook my head. We split expenses on the apartment, but he handles his own accounts. Said he preferred to keep things separate until after the wedding. Smart, Olivia said, but she wasn't complimenting him. I bet he told you he was saving for your future together? How did you know? Because he told me the same thing. For 3 years, he's been telling me we need to be careful with money, that he's saving for our dream house, for kids, for retirement. She opened his desk drawers one by one, methodically searching. Meanwhile, he's paying for 2 households, 2 lives. Where's the money coming from, Daniel? Daniel's silence was answer enough. Olivia found what she was looking for in the bottom drawer. A small lockbox, the kind meant for petty cash or important documents. She pulled it out, set it on the desk. Open it, she commanded. Olivia, that's private. Open it or I call the police right now and report identity theft. Her voice was ice. Because that's what this is, isn't it? You've been using our joint accounts to fund your other life. Our money. My money. Daniel's hand shook as he pulled out his keys and unlocked the box. Inside were documents, credit cards in different names, what looked like a second driver's license, and photos. So many photos. Olivia spread them across the desk and my stomach dropped through the floor. There were pictures of me, yes. Candid shots from moments I didn't remember him taking. But there were also photos of other women, at least 4 others. Different ages, different looks, but all with one thing in common. They were all photographed with Daniel, all looking at him the way I'm sure I had looked at him, with trust, with love. The pressure of maintaining 2 relationships, Olivia said softly, picking up one of the photos. A redhead, laughing at something off camera. Must have been exhausting. Is that why you needed 4 more? Those are old, Daniel tried. From before. This one is dated 3 weeks ago, I interrupted, holding up a photo of a blonde woman wearing what looked like a recent style of clothing. According to the metadata, I'd picked up enough tech knowledge from Daniel's supposed work to know how to check such things. The irony of using skills he'd taught me to uncover his lies wasn't lost on me. All of you, Olivia said, looking at the photos spread across the desk like a deck of cards. He was juggling all of us. How many are current? She looked up at Daniel. How many women think they're in an exclusive relationship with you right now? You don't understand, Daniel said, and now he was pleading. I have a problem. I know I do. It's an addiction, a compulsion. I need help. I know that now, but I love you both. I really do. Don't. The word came from my mouth before I realized I was speaking. Don't you dare say you love me. You don't destroy people you love. You don't lie to them for years. You don't steal years of their life building a relationship you know is based on nothing but deceit. My voice broke on the last word, and suddenly, the anger that had been holding me together crumbled. Tears spilled down my carefully made-up face, and I sank into one of Daniel's guest chairs, the Giuseppe's bag finally slipping from my numb fingers to land on the floor with a soft thud. Olivia moved around the desk and, after a moment's hesitation, placed her hand on my shoulder. The gesture was awkward but genuine. 2 women who should have been rivals, united by the devastation of the same man's betrayal. How did you not know? The question came from the doorway. A woman in her 50s, gray hair cut in a no-nonsense style, had pushed through the crowd. Her name badge identified her as Helen Morrison, HR Director. Mr. Foster, how did you manage to keep this secret for so long? Very carefully, Olivia answered before Daniel could. She'd pulled out her phone and was scrolling through something. Let me guess. You told Jennifer you didn't believe in social media? I nodded, wiping at my eyes. Same, Olivia confirmed. And any photos posted online, you made sure we were never tagged. Made it seem like a privacy preference rather than a deliberate strategy. She kept scrolling. Your gym membership. You told me you work out at 6 a.m. He told me evenings, I said. After work. Because he wasn't going to the gym at all, Olivia concluded. He was using that as an excuse for why he couldn't be reached during certain hours. Time to transition between his 2 lives. She looked up at Helen Morrison. This is textbook compartmentalization. My sister is a psychiatrist. I've heard about cases like this. Helen Morrison stepped fully into the office, her expression grave. Mr. Foster, I'm going to need you to come with me to HR. This situation has created a hostile work environment and potentially opens the company to liability. I'll sue, Daniel interrupted desperately. This is a private matter. You can't fire me for my personal life. You used company resources to maintain multiple relationships. Olivia cut in, gesturing to the desk, the office. Company time, company property. You brought Jennifer here today. That makes it a company matter. Security is on their way, someone called from the hallway. The crowd had grown even larger. Half the floor must have been watching by now. I stood up shakily, my legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. I need to leave. Wait. Olivia grabbed my arm gently. Your apartment. The one on Riverside Drive. Is your name on the lease? Yes. Just mine. He insisted. So his name isn't on it? No. Good. Change the locks. Tonight. Don't let him sweet-talk his way back in. She reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. This is my lawyer. Call her. Tell her I sent you. She's experienced in cases like this. Cases like this? I repeated. You mean there are other cases like this? Unfortunately, yes. More common than you'd think. Olivia's voice was steady, but I could see the tears she was fighting back, the way her jaw clenched. Men who live double lives, sometimes triple or quadruple lives. The lawyer I'm recommending specializes in the aftermath. Financial recovery, emotional support resources, legal protection. I took the card with numb fingers. The crowd parted as two security guards arrived, their expressions uncertain as they took in the scene. Mr. Foster, one of them began, we've been asked to escort you from the premises. This is insane! Daniel's composure finally shattered completely. I'm a senior director. You can't just throw me out based on some misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding. Richard Pemberton had returned, his face grim. I've just gotten off the phone with the CEO. Given the circumstances and the evidence of financial misconduct, your employment is terminated effective immediately. You'll receive information about final paychecks and benefits via mail. The world seemed to tilt again. Everything was happening so fast. 20 minutes ago, I'd been riding the elevator up with lunch and a heart full of love. Now I was watching the man I'd planned to marry being fired and escorted out by security. Jen. Daniel turned to me, his eyes desperate. Please, let me explain everything, not here, but later. Give me a chance to make you understand. There's nothing to understand, I said, and my voice came out stronger than I felt. You lied. For 3 years, every single day, you lied. About who you were, what we were, what our future would be. You let me plan a wedding that would never happen. You let me tell my family, my friends. You let me love you while knowing it was all built on lies. I do love you. You love your lies, Olivia interrupted. You love the thrill of getting away with it. You love having multiple women making you feel desired and important. But you don't love any of us. You can't. Because love requires honesty, and you don't seem capable of that. The security guards moved in, taking Daniel's arms. He tried to pull away, but they held firm. My things, he protested weakly. My office. Will be packed up and sent to... Which address? Helen Morrison looked between me and Olivia. Not mine, Olivia said flatly. Not mine either, I added. Then they'll go to storage, Helen decided. You can arrange pickup later. As they led Daniel away, he twisted back to look at us one more time. I'm sorry, he said. And maybe there was genuine remorse in his voice, or maybe it was just regret at being caught. I'd never know for certain, and I realized with startling clarity that I didn't care. The crowd in the hallway slowly dispersed, people returning to their offices with whispered conversations and shocked expressions. Within minutes, only Olivia, Helen Morrison, and I remained in Daniel's office. I should go, I said, but my legs didn't seem to want to move. Sit, Helen Morrison said gently, not unkindly. Both of you. Let me get you some water. You've both had a significant shock. She left, and suddenly Olivia and I were alone in the office. We looked at each other across the desk covered in evidence of Daniel's betrayals. Two women who should have been enemies, who shared nothing but the man who'd betrayed us both. I really did think we were happy, Olivia said after a long moment. 7 years. We were talking about having a baby, starting a family. He seemed excited about it. He told me he wanted kids too, I admitted. After the wedding. Said he wanted to do things the traditional way. Traditional. Olivia laughed without humor. That's one word for it. Helen returned with water bottles and a box of tissues. She set them down and leaned against the desk. I've worked in HR for 23 years, she said. I've seen a lot of things. But this is extraordinary in its deception. How did he get away with it for so long? I asked, accepting the water bottle. 3 years, 7 years. How did no one notice? Compartmentalization, Helen said. He kept his work life completely separate from both of his personal lives. Never invited either of you to company events. He told me spouses weren't invited, Olivia interrupted, that the company had a policy against it to keep things professional. No such policy exists, Helen confirmed. In fact, we encourage bringing significant others to our major events. It builds community. Another lie. Another careful construction designed to keep his two worlds from ever touching. The photos, though, I said, gesturing to the pictures still spread across the desk. These other women? Was he engaged to them too? Living with them? We'll probably never know the full extent, Olivia said. She'd picked up her phone again and was typing rapidly. But I intend to find out as much as possible. My lawyer will be thorough. I can't afford a lawyer, I said quietly. I'm freelance. My income is unpredictable. The lawyer I'm recommending does pro bono work for cases like this, Olivia said without looking up from her phone. And I mean what I said. Call her. This isn't just about Daniel. It's about protecting yourself. Making sure he hasn't opened credit cards in your name, taken out loans, anything that could come back to hurt you. The thought hadn't even occurred to me. My hands started shaking again. I need to go home, I said, standing abruptly. I need to change the locks. I need to... What did I need to do? Call my parents? Tell my friends? Cancel a wedding that was 4 months away? The enormity of what lay ahead crashed over me like a wave, and I felt myself starting to hyperventilate. Breathe, Olivia said, coming around the desk. She guided me back to the chair, her hand firm on my shoulder. Slow breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it. She talked me through it like the doctor she was, calm and professional. Gradually, my breathing slowed. The room stopped spinning. Thank you, I managed. Don't thank me. We're in this together now, whether we like it or not. Olivia's expression was complicated, a mix of anger, hurt, and something that might have been grudging respect. He put us in competition with each other without our knowledge or consent. The least we can do is refuse to play that game. Helen Morrison cleared her throat. I should warn you both. This is going to be a media situation. Daniel was a senior director at a major tech firm. Once word gets out about what happened here today, and it will get out, half the floor witnessed it, reporters will come looking for statements. Let them, Olivia said coldly. I have nothing to hide. He's the one who should be ashamed. I wasn't as sure. The thought of my humiliation being broadcast, of becoming a news story, made my skin crawl. I just want to move on. That's understandable, Helen said, but be prepared, and consider getting ahead of the story, controlling the narrative before it controls you. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out, saw messages from Maya. She'd sent 3 texts, each progressively more worried when I didn't respond. The last one read, Okay, seriously, are you dead? You're scaring me. Call me. I have to call my best friend, I said. She knew I was coming here. She's going to lose her mind. Call her on your way home, Olivia suggested, but drive carefully. You're in shock, and shock makes people do stupid things, like crash cars or make decisions they'll regret. She spoke from experience, I realized. This wasn't her first time dealing with a crisis. Maybe being a surgeon had taught her to compartmentalize her own pain, to focus on the practical steps needed to survive. I stood again, testing my legs. They held. Barely, but they held. I'll walk you to your car, Olivia offered. You don't have to. I know, but I'm going to anyway. We left Daniel's office together, me carrying the now cold coffee cups and the Giuseppe's bag that had promised celebration and delivered devastation. The hallway was empty now, but I could feel eyes watching from behind closed doors and partially open blinds. In the elevator, Olivia and I stood side by side, watching our reflections in the polished steel doors. Two women who'd both dressed carefully this morning, both prepared to celebrate the same man's success, both utterly blindsided by a truth we should have seen coming. I keep thinking I should have known, I said, as the elevator descended. There must have been signs. Red flags I ignored. There probably were, Olivia admitted. But hindsight is perfect, and people like Daniel are expert manipulators. They know exactly how to sell their lies, how to deflect suspicion. Don't blame yourself for believing someone you loved. The elevator doors opened onto the lobby. Victoria, the receptionist, looked up as we emerged. Her expression was sympathetic and horrified in equal measure. "I'm so sorry," she said as we passed. "If I'd known." "It's not your fault," I told her, and meant it. None of this was anyone's fault except Daniel's. Outside, the afternoon sun was still shining. Cars still drove past. People still walked the sidewalks, completely unaware that my entire world had just imploded. The normalcy of it all felt surreal. "That's mine," I said, pointing to my Honda Civic parked in the visitor lot. Next to it was a sleek silver Mercedes. "Let me guess. Yours?" "Wedding gift from my parents," Olivia confirmed. "They're going to be devastated when they hear. They loved Daniel." "Mine too." My dad walked me through choosing the engagement ring, helped me research diamonds and settings. He was so proud that Daniel wanted his blessing before proposing. We reached my car and I fumbled with my keys, my hand still not quite steady. The Giuseppe's bag and coffee cups went into the passenger seat. Abandoned artifacts of a surprise that had gone so terribly wrong. "Drive safe," Olivia said. She pulled out a business card, her own this time, and handed it to me. "That's my personal number. If you need anything, or if you just need to talk to someone who understands, call me. Anytime." I took the card, adding it to the one from her lawyer. "Why are you being so nice to me? I was sleeping with your husband." "You didn't know he was my husband," Olivia pointed out. "You're a victim in this, same as me. Maybe if we'd known about each other, we could have stopped this sooner. Could have saved ourselves some pain. But we didn't know, because he made sure we didn't know." Her jaw tightened. "I refused to let him turn us against each other. That would just be letting him win." I nodded, throat tight with emotion. "Thank you. For everything." "Survive this," Olivia said. "That's all the thanks I need. Survive it and come out stronger on the other side." She walked to her Mercedes and I climbed into my Honda. As I started the engine, my phone rang. Maya, calling instead of texting now. I put her on speaker as I pulled out of the parking lot. "Where the hell have you been?" Maya demanded. "I was about to call the police." "Maya," I said, and my voice cracked. "Something happened. Something really bad." "What? Is Daniel okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine, physically. But Daniel?" How did I even begin to explain? "He's married, Maya. Has been for 7 years. I'm the other woman. He's been living a double life this whole time." Silence. Then, "What?" As I drove toward the apartment that suddenly felt contaminated, I told her everything: the receptionist, the confrontation, the photos, the other women. Maya listened without interrupting, and I could hear her crying before I finished. "I'm coming over," she said when I was done. "Right now. Don't argue." "I need to change the locks," I said, "and pack up his things, and figure out how to tell my parents, and cancel a wedding, and—" "I'll help with all of it," Maya interrupted firmly. "But first, I'm coming over and we're going to order an absolutely obscene amount of takeout, and you're going to cry as much as you need to. Everything else can wait until tomorrow." "Maya?" "Yeah? Thank you. That's what best friends are for. Helping you through breakups, even ones caused by bigamous assholes who deserve to rot in hell." Despite everything, I almost smiled. "He's not technically a bigamist. Do not defend him right now, or I swear to God I will reach through this phone and strangle you." This time I did smile, just a little. "Understood." I disconnected the call as I pulled onto my street. The apartment building loomed ahead, the place I'd thought of as home for the past 2 years. Now it just looked like another stage set in Daniel's elaborate theater of lies. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "This is Olivia. Just making sure you got home safe." I responded, "Just arrived. Thank you for checking." Her reply came quickly. "Locksmith coming to my house in an hour. I can recommend the company if you need one." "Yes, please." She sent the contact information, and I saved it immediately. Then, before I could overthink it, I dialed the number. "Emergency locksmith services," a gruff voice answered. "What do you need?" "All my locks changed," I said, staring up at my apartment building. "As soon as possible. Tonight, if you can manage it." "Address?" I gave it to him, and he promised to send someone within 2 hours. It was a start. One small step toward reclaiming my space, my life, from the wreckage Daniel had left behind. I sat in my car for another minute, trying to gather the strength to go inside. The place where Daniel had lived part-time, where we'd shared meals and watched movies and made love and talked about our future. All of it tainted now, every memory poisoned by the knowledge that he'd been doing the same things with someone else. With his wife. With his wife. The words still didn't feel real, but they were real. The woman I'd met today, Olivia Foster, was his legal wife, which made me— what? The girlfriend? The mistress? The fool who'd believed every lie that fell from his lips? My phone rang again. This time it was my mother. I stared at her name on the screen, my thumb hovering over the decline button. But I couldn't avoid this forever. Better to control the narrative, like Helen Morrison had suggested. "Hi, Mom," I answered, keeping my voice as steady as possible. "Jennifer, I was just thinking about the wedding. Your father and I were looking at the guest list and we wanted to confirm—" "Mom," I interrupted gently, "I need to tell you something. About Daniel. About the wedding." The concerned pause on the other end stretched. "What's wrong? Is he sick? Did something happen?" "Not sick. But something did happen. Something really bad." I took a deep breath. Watching people walk past my car on the sidewalk, all living their normal lives while mine fell apart. "The wedding is off, Mom. Daniel he's married. To someone else. Has been for 7 years." Another silence, longer this time. Then my mother's voice, sharp with disbelief. "What are you talking about? How is that possible?" So I told the story again, and it didn't get easier with repetition. If anything, it got harder. Having to hear my own voice narrating the humiliation. My mother cried. She asked questions I couldn't answer. She said things like, "I'll kill him," and "How could he do this?" and "My poor baby." When I finally ended the call, promising to come to dinner that weekend so we could discuss everything properly, I felt completely drained, emotionally exhausted in a way I'd never experienced before. But I still had to go inside, had to face the apartment, had to start the process of erasing Daniel from my life. The elevator ride to my floor felt endless. The hallway seemed longer than usual. And when I opened the door to my apartment, the space that should have felt like sanctuary felt like a crime scene. Daniel's running shoes by the door, his jacket on the coat rack, his laptop on the dining room table. Evidence of a life that had never really existed, of a man who'd never really been mine. I walked through each room, cataloging what was his and what was mine, planning the purge that needed to happen. In the bedroom, I found one of his dress shirts hanging in my closet. Without thinking, I pulled it down and pressed it to my face, breathing in the scent that had once meant comfort and love. Now, it just smelled like betrayal. The doorbell rang. Maya, probably. Even though I'd only just gotten off the phone with her 20 minutes ago, she must have broken every speed limit to get here so fast. But when I opened the door, it wasn't Maya. It was a woman I'd never seen before. Late 20s. Auburn hair, green eyes red-rimmed from crying. She looked at me with an expression I now recognized intimately, the shell-shocked face of someone whose world had just shattered. "Are you Jennifer?" she asked, her voice small. I nodded slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. "I'm Emily Carson," she said. "I saw what happened today. It's all over social media. Someone recorded the whole thing at Daniel's office." She pulled out her phone, showed me a video that was indeed playing on some news site. There we were, me and Olivia and Daniel. The entire confrontation captured for the world to see. "I'm sorry," I said, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. "Did you know Daniel?" Emily's laugh was bitter. "Know him. We've been dating for 8 months. He proposed last week." And there it was. The truth that kept unfolding, layer after layer of deception. Not 2 lives, not 3, but at least 4. Maybe more. "You should come in," I heard myself saying. "I think we have a lot to talk about." Emily stepped into my apartment, and I closed the door behind her, already pulling out my phone to text Olivia. "You were right," I wrote. "There are more. Another fiancé just showed up at my door." Olivia's response came within seconds. "I'm on my way. Don't let her leave. We need to know everything." I looked at Emily, who stood in my living room like a ghost, staring at the photos of me and Daniel scattered on the walls, the same way I'd stared at Olivia's wedding photo in his office. "There's wine in the kitchen," I told her. "We're going to need it." As Emily followed me through the apartment, as I pulled out glasses and opened a bottle of Merlot with shaking hands, I thought about how this morning I'd been planning a surprise, how excited I'd been, how certain of my future. Now here I was, pouring wine for the 4th woman in Daniel Foster's elaborate web of lies, waiting for the wife to arrive so we could all piece together the truth of the man we'd all thought we knew. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Maya, eyes fierce with protective fury. Then it rang a 3rd time. Olivia, still in her elegant black suit, looking every inch the surgeon about to perform a complicated operation. The 4 of us stood in my living room, the apartment Daniel had shared with me while married to Olivia, and engaged to Emily and who knew what else, and looked at each other. We sat in a circle in my living room, 4 women connected by one man's betrayal. Maya had ordered Chinese food, enough for an army, and it sat mostly untouched on the coffee table between us. Wine, however, was disappearing at an alarming rate. "So let me get this straight," Maya said, refilling her glass. She'd appointed herself as the unofficial investigator, taking notes on her phone. "Daniel married Olivia 7 years ago, started seeing Jennifer 3 years ago, and proposed to Emily 8 months ago. What I want to know is, how did he keep track of it all? Very carefully, Olivia said dryly. She'd removed her suit jacket and looked more human now. Less like the Ice Queen surgeon and more like a woman barely holding herself together. I've been going through our financial records. He had a system. Color-coded calendars, separate email accounts, different phone numbers. He told me he had a work phone and a personal phone, I said, the realization dawning. The work phone was always off limits. For security reasons, he said. Same here, Emily spoke up. She'd been quiet mostly, still processing. Said his company had strict policies about privacy. Sterling Dynamics has no such policy, Olivia confirmed. I called and asked. Claimed I was doing research for hospital security protocols. Maya looked at Emily. Tell us your story. How did you meet him? Emily wrapped her hands around her wine glass like it was a lifeline. Coffee shop in Brooklyn. 8 months ago. I was working on my laptop and he sat down next to me. Started chatting. Seemed sweet. Genuine. Said he was recently divorced. That his ex-wife had cheated on him and he was trying to learn to trust again. Recently divorced, Olivia repeated flatly. We're still very much married. I have the papers to prove it. He told me he was a widower, I said quietly. Said his wife died of cancer 2 years before we met. That he'd been in grief counseling, learning to live again. The room fell silent. Even Maya, who always had something to say, looked stunned. He killed me off, Olivia finally said, her voice dangerously soft. In his story to you, I was dead. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I had no idea. Stop apologizing. Olivia cut me off, but not unkindly. None of us knew. That's the point. He crafted different stories for different women, whatever would generate the most sympathy, the most trust. He told me about his dead wife, Emily said, looking at me. Used it to explain why he was sometimes distant, why he couldn't commit to certain dates. Said he was still healing. Maya's fingers flew across her phone screen. This is textbook pathological lying. Probably has been doing this for years. Maybe before Olivia even. I've been thinking about that, Olivia admitted. I found something today, after I got home. An old phone hidden in his closet, one I'd never seen before. It has messages dating back 9 years. Before you were married, I said. Yes. Other women. Different names, different relationships. Some lasted months, some just a few weeks. But they all overlapped. Olivia pulled out the phone, set it on the coffee table like evidence in a trial. I think we were never his only lives. I think he's always been like this. Emily leaned forward, her professional curiosity overtaking her hurt for a moment. What does someone get out of living like that? The constant stress, the lying, the scheduling? Control, Maya answered before anyone else could. And validation. Multiple women making him feel desired, important, needed. It's an addiction, really, to the deception itself. My therapist is going to make so much money off this, I muttered, refilling my own glass. We should compare notes, Olivia said, pulling out her laptop. Everything we know about Daniel, where he said he was, what he was doing. Let's map out his entire life and see how much of it was real. For the next 2 hours, we did exactly that. Creating a timeline, cross-referencing stories, discovering the intricate architecture of Daniel's lies. He'd told Emily he traveled for consulting work. He'd told me he had a demanding schedule managing accounts across multiple states. He'd told Olivia he was taking on private projects to save for their future home. He wasn't traveling for work at all, Maya summarized, looking at the timeline on her laptop screen. He was just rotating between you. 3 or 4 days with Olivia, 3 or 4 with Jennifer. Weekends with Emily. Filled in the gaps by claiming work obligations. The gym membership, I remembered suddenly. He said he worked out in the mornings. Evenings for me, Olivia confirmed. Lunch breaks, Emily added. Said he had to stay fit to manage stress. So he was never actually going to the gym, Maya concluded. Just another excuse for unaccounted time. Probably meeting other women we don't even know about yet. The thought made my stomach turn. How many more were there? How many women had believed Daniel's lies, built their lives around false promises? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Is this Jennifer Torres? I saw the video. I think I'm dating Daniel too. I showed it to the others. Olivia's jaw tightened. Emily looked like she might be sick. That makes 5, Maya said grimly. She looked at me. How do you want to handle this? I thought about it for a moment, then started typing. Come to this address. We're having a meeting. Bring wine. Within an hour, she arrived. Sarah Mitchell, a graphic designer like me, who'd been seeing Daniel for 6 months. She thought he was separated, working through a difficult divorce. Then came another, and another. By midnight, there were 8 of us crowded into my apartment. 8 women, all different ages and backgrounds, all connected by the same man's systematic deception. Some cried, some raged, some sat in stunned silence, still processing the impossible reality. We should go to the police, Sarah suggested. What he did has to be illegal. Unfortunately, it's mostly not, Olivia said. She'd made calls to her lawyer during the evening. He never married anyone else, so no bigamy charges. The financial fraud is complex. He used his own money from his salary, just distributed it across multiple lives. The emotional damage is real, but hard to prosecute. So he just gets away with it? Emily demanded, her voice rising. He destroys our lives and faces no consequences? I didn't say that, Olivia replied with a cold smile. I said it's hard to prosecute criminally. Civil court is another matter entirely. Maya leaned forward, interested. What are you thinking? Class action lawsuit, Olivia said. 8 plaintiffs, maybe more as others come forward. Fraud, emotional distress, financial damages. Make it public. Make it costly. Make sure everyone knows what Daniel Foster did. I'm a surgeon, she continued. I have resources. Sarah, you said you're a paralegal? Sarah nodded. I can help with the legal research. I work in PR. Another woman, Jessica, spoke up. I can help control the narrative, make sure the story gets told right. Around the room, I watched something shift. 8 women who'd been victims, who'd been isolated in their individual heartbreaks, transforming into something else. A force. A movement. I'm in, I said. Whatever it takes. One by one, the others agreed. We exchanged contact information, created a group chat, made plans to meet with Olivia's lawyer the next day. As they left, each woman hugged me. Strangers bound together by shared trauma, finding strength in solidarity. When only Maya remained, she looked at me with concern. How are you really doing? I thought about it. Honestly, I feel like my entire life was a lie. 3 years with someone who never existed. 3 years of love and trust and plans for the future, all built on nothing. Not nothing, Maya corrected gently. Your feelings were real. Your love was real. He's the one who lied, not you. Don't let him make you doubt your own heart. But how do I trust again? The question came out small, vulnerable. How do I ever believe anyone after this? You will, Maya assured me. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month. But eventually, you'll heal. You'll be stronger and wiser. And you'll find someone worthy of the love you have to give. The locksmith had come and gone hours ago. New locks on the door, new keys in my hand. Daniel couldn't get back in now, couldn't surprise me by showing up unannounced. This space was mine again, reclaimed. After Maya left, I walked through the apartment gathering Daniel's things: the running shoes, the jacket, the laptop, his clothes from the closet, his toiletries from the bathroom. I packed everything methodically into boxes, feeling nothing. Numbness had replaced the earlier anger and pain. My phone rang, Daniel's name on the screen. I almost declined, but curiosity made me answer. "Jen," he started, his voice desperate. "Please, let me explain. There are 8 of us," I interrupted calmly. 8 women you are actively deceiving. Maybe more we haven't found yet. What exactly do you think you can explain?" Silence. Then, "I'm sick. I need help. I'm going to get therapy. Work on myself." "Good. Do that. But do it away from me. Away from all of us." I looked at the boxes of his belongings stacked by the door. "I'm putting your things in storage. You have 30 days to pick them up. Then I'm donating everything." "Jen, please. I love you. I love all of you. That's the problem. I couldn't choose." "You didn't love any of us," I said, and finally felt the truth of it settle in my bones. "You loved the game. The thrill of getting away with it. But the game is over now, Daniel. You lost." I hung up before he could respond and blocked his number. Then I blocked him everywhere else: social media, email, every possible avenue of contact. One by one, cutting the threads that connected us. My phone buzzed with a message in the group chat Olivia had created for all 8 of us. She'd sent a photo of a news article. "Tech executive exposed as serial deceiver. Multiple women come forward." The story was already out there, spreading across social media and news sites. Comments ranged from supportive to skeptical to cruel. But the truth was public now. Daniel's carefully constructed secret lives had been demolished, exposed to the harsh light of public scrutiny. "Good," I texted back. "Let everyone know what he is." Over the following days, the story grew. More women came forward. Television interviews, magazine articles, even a podcast dedicated to untangling the web of Daniel's deceptions. Sterling Dynamics released a statement condemning his behavior and promising to review their ethics policies. Olivia's lawyer filed the class action lawsuit with 12 plaintiffs. The number kept growing as more women discovered they'd been part of Daniel's elaborate scheme. My parents drove into the city, spent a weekend helping me process everything. My father, who'd been so proud to help me choose an engagement ring, now wanted to track Daniel down personally. My mother just held me while I cried, reminded me that I was strong, that I would survive this. The wedding venue got a cancellation notice. Deposits were lost, but I didn't care. The dress I'd bought still hung in my closet, a ghost of a future that would never happen. Eventually, I'd deal with it. Just not yet. Maya stayed over most nights that first week, creating a protective buffer between me and the world. She screened my calls, managed my social media, made sure I ate even when I had no appetite. 2 weeks after the confrontation at Sterling Dynamics, I met with all 12 women involved in the lawsuit. We gathered in a conference room at Olivia's lawyer's office, a surreal reunion of Daniel's victims turned survivors. "He's trying to settle," the lawyer informed us, "offering a significant sum to make this go away quietly." "No," Olivia said immediately, and around the table heads nodded in agreement. "This goes to court. Public record. Let every woman who dates him in the future be able to search his name and find the truth." "Agreed," I added. "This isn't about money. It's about accountability." The trial, when it came months later, was brutal. Daniel's lawyers tried every tactic, claiming we were vindictive, that he'd been honest about his situation, that we'd known all along. But the evidence was overwhelming. Text messages, emails, financial records, testimony from co-workers who'd witnessed his careful compartmentalization. The jury found in our favor. Substantial damages awarded to each plaintiff. But more than that, the judgment was public, permanent, searchable. Daniel Foster's name would forever be associated with his crimes. I didn't attend the final day of trial. I'd moved past needing to see Daniel face consequences. Justice was important, but it wasn't where my healing lived. 6 months after that terrible day at Sterling Dynamics, I stood in a new apartment. Smaller than the old one, but entirely mine. No memories of Daniel contaminated these walls. No ghost of false futures haunted these rooms. Maya helped me hang pictures, real ones this time, of me and my family, my friends, my life. The life Daniel had tried to make me believe was inadequate, that I'd needed him to complete. "You know what I realized?" I said, stepping back to examine a photo of me and Maya at the beach. "I was happy before Daniel. I had a good life, good work, people who loved me. He didn't make me better, he just made me doubt myself." "And now?" Maya asked. "Now I'm remembering who I was, who I am without someone else defining me." My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. "Coffee tomorrow. I found a great new place." Over the months, Olivia and I had become unlikely friends. Our shared trauma had created a bond neither of us expected but both appreciated. She understood in a way no one else could what it felt like to have your reality completely rewritten. "Sounds good," I texted back. "Morning?" "Perfect. Emily and Sarah might join too." The support group had evolved into genuine friendships. Women who'd met through heartbreak, now choosing to remain in each other's lives by choice rather than circumstance. I looked around my new apartment, at the life I was rebuilding piece by piece. It wasn't the life I'd planned, the wedding that would never happen, the future with Daniel that had been pure fiction. But it was real, honest, mine. My business had grown. Turned out, getting publicly humiliated had somehow made me a minor celebrity in certain circles. New clients reached out, sympathetic and supportive. Projects multiplied. My income stabilized in ways it never had before. "I'm thinking about writing about it," I told Maya one evening over dinner. "The whole experience. Not for revenge or exposure. Daniel's already exposed. But maybe to help other women recognize the signs. To know they're not crazy if something feels off." "I think that's a great idea," Maya encouraged. "You're a good writer, and you have an important story to tell." So I started writing. Late at night in my new apartment, I documented everything. The red flags I'd missed, the lies that seemed so plausible at the time, the systematic isolation Daniel had engineered to keep his separate lives from colliding. But I also wrote about recovery, about the strength I found in other women, in community, in refusing to let one man's betrayal define my worth. About learning to trust myself again, to believe in my own judgment even after it had been so spectacularly wrong. The article, when it was published 6 months later, went viral. Messages poured in from women around the world sharing their own stories. Some had experienced similar betrayals. Others just wanted to express solidarity, support, understanding. A publisher reached out about expanding it into a book. I signed the contract on what would have been my wedding day, the date I'd once circled in red on my calendar. The irony wasn't lost on me. Daniel tried to contact me when the article came out, claiming it violated his privacy, demanding I take it down. I ignored him. His privacy had ended when he'd lied to a dozen women simultaneously. A year after the confrontation at Sterling Dynamics, I attended a conference for freelance designers in Boston. At the hotel bar one evening, a man struck up a conversation. He was charming, attractive, successful. Everything Daniel had been. I excused myself politely, my heart racing. Old fears surfacing despite all the healing I'd done, but then I stopped. Took a breath. Reminded myself that not every man was Daniel. that fear couldn't control my life forever. I went back to the bar, rejoined the conversation, told him honestly about my past, about being cautious. He listened without judgment, shared his own story of divorce and learning to date again. We talked for hours, exchanged numbers. No promises, no expectations. Just two people connecting honestly. Maybe something would come of it. Maybe not. But I was open to the possibility, and that felt like victory enough. Because Daniel had tried to destroy my ability to trust, to love, to believe in good people and honest relationships. He'd tried to make me bitter and closed off and afraid. He'd failed. I was still standing, still believing, still building a life worth living. The apartment I'd shared with Daniel was someone else's home now. The engagement ring had been sold, the money donated to a women's shelter. The wedding dress finally went to a consignment shop where some other bride, hopefully luckier than me, would find it. All the physical evidence of that false life had been erased, but the lessons remained, the strength I'd discovered, the friendships forged in crisis, the knowledge that I could survive the unsurvivable and come out stronger on the other side. On the anniversary of that terrible day, all 12 of us met for dinner. A celebration not of the trauma, but of our collective resilience. 12 women who'd refused to be broken by one man's cruelty. We raised our glasses in a toast. To us, Olivia said. To surviving. To healing, Emily added. To truth, Sarah contributed. To never settling for less than we deserve, I finished. We drank, and it tasted like freedom. Daniel Foster had thought he could juggle multiple lives indefinitely, had believed himself clever enough, careful enough, to maintain the deception forever. He'd been wrong, and we, the women he'd tried to deceive and diminish, had transformed our pain into power, our isolation into community, our betrayal into a platform for truth. I walked home that night through the city streets, past the building where Sterling Dynamics was housed, where everything had unraveled exactly 1 year ago. A part of me would always carry the scar of what Daniel had done, the 3 years stolen, the trust shattered, the future that never was. But scars were evidence of survival, proof that I'd been wounded but not destroyed. My phone buzzed. A text from the man I'd met in Boston. We'd been seeing each other for a few months now, taking it slow, building something on a foundation of honesty rather than lies. Thinking of you, his message read. Hope dinner with your friends was good. I smiled and texted back, then looked up at my apartment building. Home. Real. Honest. Mine. The surprise I'd planned for Daniel a year ago had been meant to celebrate his success. Instead, it had exposed his lies and ultimately led to my liberation. Sometimes, I thought, the worst day of your life is also the beginning of something better. I walked inside, ready for whatever came next. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.